Verse 208. How does existence cease to exist? How does the sameness take place? When the mind fails to understand the truth, there is disturbance inside, outside, and in the middle. With the cessation of the disturbance, the mind sees the sameness. How does existence cease to exist? Why ask such a question? This question is addressing misconceptions about the spiritual path. We've often heard, I'm sure, especially if you've looked into teachings based on Indian spirituality, that the world is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. And we've somehow got to get beyond the illusion. But clearly, there's something going on, isn't there? There's something that we conventionally call the world going on. So it has some kind of existence, just as a mirage has some kind of existence, just as a rainbow has some kind of existence, just as a piece of music has some kind of existence. So there's no point in denying that. That's what this is saying. That's what it means. How does existence cease to exist? There's no point in denying what is apparent. What's necessary for us is to change our relationship with it. Change our relationship with it. And this means not emotionally investing in it. We engage with it, we get on with what needs to be done, but we are not putting ourselves into it. It's like a good actor. A good actor knows they're playing a role, but they play that role to the hilt. And once they've finished playing that role, once they've done their bit, they come back to themselves. They don't need to give that role another minute's thought. They can get on with doing what they want to do. But when they've got to play the role, they play the role to the hilt. So this is how we are with conventional reality. Whatever role we find ourselves in, we play it. If we've got some capacity for changing that role or moving into a different role, and that's what we decide to do, then we can do that. But the point here is to develop a perspective, a relationship with everything. We had a bit of nice weather yesterday, and it was an opportunity to head down to the beach. And because it was a nice day, there were a lot of people on the beach. Kids, young folk, middle-aged and old folk. So there's a lot of noise going on. But there's something funny about the beach. Maybe because it's such an open space. You can lie there. You can lie there with your eyes closed, and the sounds all seem to merge into one soundscape. It's like they no longer impinge, even if some are nearby and there's some noisy ones going on. Maybe some people playing a ball game in the distance. It's all going on. But yet, I can feel relaxed and still and not let any of these sounds bother me. It doesn't matter what the sound is, it's just part of the soundscape. And this is what's meant by sameness here. How does sameness take place? Sameness takes place by being centered and still in yourself. What I sometimes refer to as being in your own sense of being. And everything else is going on. I'm not shutting it out. I'm not analysing it. It's just part of the soundscape. There's nothing in it which need bother me. It's all just people relaxing, having a day out, having fun. So I can relax too. I can withdraw from it. That was a nice opportunity, but I had the knack for doing this once, some years ago, when I was doing some teaching in a rather horrible school. There was a big communal staff room. It's about, 100 staff in it. And I was doing a temporary post, working as a teacher. And I had the knack of being able to grab 10 minutes sleep in this very noisy staff room by sitting in a chair, putting my feet up on a table, sitting back and allowing all these sounds to merge into a soundscape. And I could just let myself nod off. I remember somebody asking me, "Did you really go to sleep there?" And I did. So this is the sameness, all the sound, and the sounds in the staff room certainly weren't relaxed and having fun. But it didn't matter, they were nothing to do with me. I just put them into that soundscape and withdrew. So there's some idea of sameness here. It's not just sounds, it's everything. If we've got the sameness of attitude, when we realise there's no way we can achieve ultimate fulfillment in whatever the world has to offer, then we can step back from it. I think the sense is somewhat similar to a book I read by, I think it was by Robert Monroe. It's a book on astral projection. And he describes some vivid experiences he had of being in a particular body. And he was describing the person whose body he was inhabiting and the circumstances. And it was clearly a little bit different from our conventional reality. But this is the feeling. It's a feeling of being a stranger in a strange land. You're not buying into it. You find it all a little bit strange, a little bit alien even. And you're observing it, you're witnessing it without actually being part of it. So there's this stepping back and observing. This is the sameness. When the mind fails to understand the truth, there is disturbance inside, outside, and in the middle. So when the mind fails to see the truth, when the mind is not with this equanimous understanding, this sameness, then there's disturbance in the triple world. And that triple world is your own moods. It's the disturbances in the world that you inhabit, which is usually perceived through these moods. That's the inside, the outside, and then in the middle is the connection between the two, is the relationship between you and your perceived world. So there's disturbance. With the cessation of this disturbance, the mind sees the sameness. So the cessation of this disturbance is the cessation of investing emotionally in the triple world. It's the cessation of investing in the world, in conventional understanding, and it's been able to step back behind your moods, being able to get to the other side of your moods. So this is the cessation. This is the end of disturbance, which is a much better way of understanding the term dukkha. In Buddhism, there's talk of the end of suffering, and that's a very appealing prospect. The Buddhism taught the path to the end of suffering. But there's always suffering. The Buddha himself suffered on different levels, both physically and emotionally. But there's a possibility of changing our relationship with that. And that is a discovery of sameness, which isn't a very inspiring word. It tends to have connotations of blandness and so on. But it's sameness in the sense of equanimity, an equable understanding in relation to everything that is going on. Being able to step back and be anchored in your own sense of being.